I also think about myself, my own social habits, right? I will follow the exact same brand across multiple channels, but the nuance, my own personal nuance, like, I am gonna go to I keep using TikTok as an example, but just because it's easy, because I want to be entertained. But when I want to learn about the product specifically, I'm going to look at what I took from TikTok, how I was entertained. I'm gonna look them up on Instagram. I'm gonna see how they interact on Facebook. I'm going to maybe pen them on Pinterest. If I'm looking at it from, like, a strategic business standpoint, I'm gonna look them up on LinkedIn, and I'm going to see all of those different things. And I think it's important to consider when you do that, not just the individual audiences on each platform, but the nuance within each individual person as well. The way that they're going to receive something on TikTok, how is that going to translate as they look you up on other channels as well?
Welcome to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, your dedicated source for mastering B2B social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Galton, and in each episode, we dive deep into the complex world of B2B marketing, from effective content creation to strategic social selling, sharing insights and strategies you can use right away. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing professionals like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling organizations like yours. Now, if you ever feel like your marketing efforts are scattered across too many channels with no real connection, well, if so, you're not alone. In today's digital landscape, we're all trying to be everywhere at once, posting on LinkedIn, creating TikTok, sending emails, and designing in store experiences, but rarely connecting these pieces into a cohesive strategy that actually resonates with real people. The truth is, successful omnichannel marketing isn't about mastering more platforms, it's about putting people at the center of everything you do. And today I'm thrilled to welcome Heather Desaro and Mark Popejoy from Soapbox Influence and Retail Media. With Heather's 16 years navigating social media evolution and Mark's 2 decades designing for major brands like Walmart and the NBA, they've cracked the code on creating marketing that flows naturally across touch points while keeping the human element front and center. Hey, Mark and Heather, welcome to the show.
Good
Hi, how's it going?
morning.
Good, good. Thanks so much for having me. I know that's all right. That'll happen a little bit. We're doing something a little different today with two guests, and that's great. But let's start with a bit of context. How has the concept of omnichannel marketing evolved since you both began your careers, and what do you see as the biggest misconceptions B2B marketers have about it today? Mark, I'll let you start first.
Yeah, I think when I first started, omnichannel wasn't even a thing yet, right? So that word, kind of came around, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, something like that. So when I first started, omnichannel wasn't a thing. But being in this space for over the last 20 plus years, you kind of see how different platforms talk to each other and different channels start evolving. And being in Northwest Arkansas, the home of Walmart, like the omnichannel has been the buzzword for quite a while now. And I think just the fact that meeting shoppers where they are, whether that's on social or in store or digital, wherever those locations are, it's been a big boost and big push for retail in general. And we've just been focusing on it for the last probably 15 parts of my career of how we get there, how we cross that bridge, how to meet people where they are. And then designing and communicating to those spaces, that messaging has to be consistent across all those different channels and platforms. So it's involved for sure. Well, what we see now is definitely not what we saw even 5 years ago, let alone 20. So it's been good to see. It's been a challenge. There's been different things along the way that have popped up that I wouldn't even thought about. But yeah, it's been really challenging and fun to kind of see how that's evolved and where I fit into that space.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I can only imagine what it's like living in Bentonville. Heather, what about you?
I'm thinking about this. I am a certified geriatric millennial, right? And I think back to such a lovely term. I think back to when, back when I was a kid, we would see something on a TV commercial and then we would have to go in store, touch and feel. Well, we'd have to convince our parents to go into the store
Right.
and then touch and feel
Yeah.
it and then convince them to buy it. And as I've gotten older, as I've gone through my career, omni-channel is something that has just kind of gradually evolved, right? And I think what's really interesting is that the in-store piece is not as big as it used to be, right? We have, omni-channel, of course, means we're looking at online, we're looking at social, we're looking at making it easier for people to shop. But there's still so many people who want to go in-store and, like, touch and feel and interact and almost start to create a relationship with that product in person, and so, I think it's really cool the way that omni-channel has continued to push that, and I hope to see that more in the future as well.
Yeah, we were talking about J.C. Penney's before we started recording, and I remember distinctly growing up seeing ads for toys that are in cartoons, right? And then looking for those
Mhm.
toys in the JCPenney catalog so I could circle them and say, "Hey, mommy, dad, this is what I want. Can you get this for me?" Yeah, that was the extent of the advertising that was reaching me. But
Mhm.
you've had this unique experience of watching social media evolve from its early days to what it is now. How has your perspective as the creator and an agency strategist shaped your approach to integrating social media into broader marketing strategies?
You know, it's funny because I fell essentially into blogging and social media and stuff. Facebook started when I was in college, and so because I had that college email address or that university email address, I was able to kind of be one of the first participants of it. Um, but at the root of it all, it was just bringing people together to connect, right? It was taking this really big giant world where we kind of keep in touch with people, but maybe not, and kind of making it feel a little bit smaller because we had that connection. And then whenever I started doing blogging, that was kind of my gateway into influence and everything. You can go back on my blog like years and years and years, and you can see just hundreds of comments. And it was essentially like online networking. I'm still very good friends with a lot of the people that you can see commenting on my blog today. Um, and I think along the way, as it has evolved with social, as it has evolved with influence and everything, there's been this I'm gonna make up a word, businessification of it all, right? It's a business for creators. It's a way for them to bring in income for their family, for themselves, to reach financial goals, etcetera. It's also business for the businesses that participate in it as well. And, I think a lot of times it has lost that human connection, and so I think something that has been really fun is as I'm strategizing for clients, for our agency, for myself even, really trying to make it feel take that idea of having this big world and making it feel smaller, more personal, more, um, intimate, and like people actually care. I think that's a really big piece that's been missing lately.
Oh, that's huge. Tell me a little bit more about the work that you're doing at Soapbox.
So I run social channels for, clients, and what that looks like, actually, there's a couple of different things. I do kind of like white glove social media management, and so that's curating all of the content, that we source from this giant community of creators that we have. And so you have, like, really beautiful, varying content, very diverse content, and I put that all together, create the caption copy, schedule everything out, make sure that I'm interacting and that we're measuring all of their results. So we have that side of things. We also have another offering that we have is user generated content creation. And so that's another piece of what I do is reaching out again to our community of influencers and depending on whatever the goals are for the client, whether it's video, whether it's photos, a mix of the two, what their product focus is, etc, we source that content and deliver it to their inbox monthly. And so I do that and then also head up some of the strategy behind what we're working with Soapbox Retail as well on the agency side.
Fantastic. And Mark, share a little bit about your role, please.
Yeah, so I'm vice president and team lead for Soapbox. I've been with the company about 4 years now. I oversee all things creative, all things strategy, all things digital. So kind of definitely a lot of different hats on the team. Of we have different kind of pockets and teams that do different things. We have a content team that deals with strictly e-commerce listings and how they look. We have a photo studio that we capture a lot of our video and photography for those .com listings or that we can share with our clients for their socials or their marketing themselves. And then we have a retail media side that manages and places ads for marketing on all these larger sites, Walmart.com, Target, Amazon. So we really kind of help tell that larger story, and so all parts of the business are talking to each other. So I lead that team. We've grown over the last 4 years. It's Heather's helped us in that spot for sure with bringing that social component. But really, it's just kind of leading this team, just going down this road of understanding the capabilities, opportunities that we have that, didn't exist 5 years ago. And so, yeah, just making sure that we look good, we sound good, we're helping our clients do exactly that as well. And it's been fun to see how this team has evolved over the last 4 to 5 years.
Awesome. So with that extensive background and all these channels that you're maintaining, how do you ensure visual consistency while still optimizing content for different channels and some of their specific requirements?
Yeah, it's a constant learning thing, right? So education is part of my background. I was in the education sector for 12 years and continuously just learning and understanding what things are, how things evolve. I mean, we know that even Instagram changes their algorithms and their content and their requirements, pretty often, and we just have to stay on top of that. So we really stay on top of being aware of when those changes happen and how we can convert those things, even kind of reverse engineer it so that we are making sure that things are fitting even after that transfer has taken place. So a lot of it is staying in the know, being aware, reading a lot, staying connected to different resources that help us kind of get ahead of it a little bit, and just maintaining that we have that consistent education and understanding from our team. From the design side, it's really this. It's not very different than it was, 25 years ago of maintaining a brand style guide, of understanding colors, how they look on digital, how they look on the web versus a phone. There's very, very kind of just minute differences between different platforms that we just have to be aware about. And it is a lot of that. Again, it goes back to the education part of understanding what our clients' needs are, keeping their brand consistent. The last thing a brand wants to do is see their color different on a different platform or a print piece or a digital piece. There's equity in all those things: color, font, how it looks, spacing. There's a lot of science that kind of goes into the psychology behind design, and that's my background, and I do nerd out about things like that. But I'm also understand how just attentive you have to be to make sure that consistency happens. Otherwise, your message is lost. You're not consistent, and you're not relevant. You're just not believable if your message is not looking the way it should, according to the brand or the requirements of the platform you're on.
I couldn't agree more. In a previous life, I was in sales and marketing for a chain of swimming pool and sales and warehouses in Ohio, and we very much focused on consistent messaging and branding. It was lighthouse pools and spas everywhere, a lot of the same music and
Yeah.
themes and that overarching theme of we were helping families create outdoor living spaces. Yes, we sold pools to do that, right? But we didn't talk about the width of the pool wall or how many horsepower in the pump. It was about, creating that image and putting the people first in the messaging and in the marketing, which worked really well for consumers and retail. But as I kind of suggested at the outset, that seems to be also a good approach for omnichannel marketing, even from a B2B perspective. So I'm wondering if you two could kind of give us your take on how you see that working for a B2B brand that isn't necessarily doing retail.
Personally, the way I see it is businesses I mean, we're all people, right? There is no way to separate emotional connection from anything because we all have an emotional connection to something, whether it is one of our clients who this is how they make money for their family. They are emotionally connected to that company, to the success of that product, to the success of every campaign that they run, right? There's an emotional connection there. Or if it is somebody who sees an influencer talking about something, they feel that camaraderie somehow, that emotional connection to the influencer, and when they see that, then they start to develop that relationship, that emotional connection to the product. And I don't know if there's a way to take that out of it. And so when I think about, making it people centered, um, I think I think emotion is a big piece of it, right? Really making sure that that consistency is there because it matters to everybody involved. It matters to the people who are making the purchase. It matters to the influencer who is talking about it. It matters to the clients and the people that work for the company. And so I think when you make something people centric and you make it um, about the person, about the human behind the screen, then I think everybody wins.
Yeah, I want to definitely jump off that. So even though I have this, 20 plus years of background in design, really what I do is communicate, right? It's messaging, it's how things are delivered. And the one thing I learned very early on in my career, is that communication happens whether you want it whether you wanted to or not, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's a good or bad communication, those things are still happening, and it transcends language. In design, the very one of the very first things I learned was textures communicate. They invoke an emotion, and emotions communicate. So those are the things you're trying to connect with people. Is that emotion similar to what Heather just said? Is you can invoke an emotion, and that will communicate to your audience. And the thing is, communities, people like people. It's not a one-off campaign. It's a long-term commitment when you're going through these things that it when you're trying to communicate those things, an emotion, whether it's a pool or whether it's, how a TV looks on your wall, like all the things that we're trying to communicate, and whether we're adding value to someone's life or their time or their home, shoppers are smart. They can see through shallow effort. You're going if that's your term, if that's what you're looking for as a quick fix, it will be short lived. It'll be exactly that because you know campaigns disguised as human sentiment are easy to see through by most people, and I think those interactions, that communication will be very very clear when it's not genuine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Heather, I know one of the struggles that a lot of B2B brands have is connecting their social media channels to all the other marketing touch points that they have going
Mhm.
on. What do you see as some of the biggest integration challenges there?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that people see instead of seeing it as a cohesive unit, they see it as separate, just completely separate entities. And the challenge is always how do you marry, how do you get that cohesion, right, from not just social media channel to social media channel. Like you said, it's how do you integrate all of it, the digital side, your advertising, all of that. So each channel is going to be different, right? You have TikTok, which is going to be a much more sort of casual experience for the end user. People are going there to be entertained, right, rather than um, specifically educated, although TikTok is very much a search engine at this point and very much a piece of education for your company. But it has to be done like in a casual, like a strategically casual way versus something like Instagram or Pinterest that's much more visually oriented, right? And I think that the challenge is figuring out how to do that in a way that makes it a cohesive uh, experience for the end user. And so when I think about how B2B marketers can fix that, I don't know if there's necessarily a way to fix it. I think that it just means kind of as to what Mark was saying, like putting in that effort to understand the end user on each platform and then making sure that you're speaking their language, basically speaking directly to them rather than just cross promoting or and not that that's a bad thing, but making it specifically for that end user versus like having the exact same thing on every platform.
Absolutely. It's all about communication, like Mark was saying a moment ago. Mark, anything you'd like to add to that?
Oh, I think that's perfect. I think, identifying those audiences, like Heather was saying, like even when our own socials, we have different target audiences for TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. Like they're different just demographics altogether. They're different age groups. They're different. It's a different way to communicate. And you have to just understand like you can't have the same message over five different platforms. It's tone deaf, it goes generic, and you don't have any validity to what you're saying or engaging with your people. And like I said, people are smart. They're going to figure it out that if they can just go to one location to get what you're saying instead of five, you're missing out on chances to communicate and connect with your audience. And just understanding that people use different platforms for different reasons. If you don't do that, you are really going to just kind of end up shooting yourself in the foot.
I also think about myself, my own social habits, right? I will follow the exact same brand across multiple channels, but the nuance, my own personal nuance, like, I keep using TikTok as an example, but just because it's easy, because I want to be entertained. But when I want to learn about the product specifically, I'm going to look at what I took from TikTok, how I was entertained. I'm gonna look them up on Instagram. I'm gonna see how they interact on Facebook. I'm going to maybe pin them on Pinterest. If I'm looking at it from like a strategic business standpoint, I'm going to look them up on LinkedIn and I'm going to see all of those different things. And I think it's important to consider when you do that, not just the individual audiences on each platform, but the nuance within each individual person as well. The way that they're going to receive something on TikTok, how is that going to translate as they look you up on other channels as well?
Got it. Makes complete sense. Folks, we're talking with Heather and Mark about the opportunities B2B marketers have in front of them when pursuing an omnichannel approach. And I've got several more questions, but before we get to those, Jay Bear's got a quick message for us.
Hey friends, this is Jay Bear, founder of Convince and Convert, and I want to take just a minute to tell you why I love Agora Pulse. Now look, there's a ton of social media management tools out there, but Agora Pulse has some really special features that my team and I really appreciate. I want to tell you about those. Now first, the mobile app for Agora Pulse is really solid. I travel like 200 days a year, so the ability to check all of my social media accounts from an airport or wherever else I happen to be is a huge plus. Also, you have the ability to moderate YouTube from within Agorapulse. That's really handy too if you do a lot of videos, and you can oversee both paid and social media programs in the same place and at the same time. The team at Agorapulse is also super to work with. They're really responsive. They're a great group. It's high powered, yet it's also affordable, and that's a combination I can get behind. If you haven't used Agorapulse yet, check it out.
So I'm wondering if you guys could share a success story, maybe where one of your clients, they transformed their approach, they adopted this more integrated, people-centered omni-channel strategy. What were some of the key factors that made that work for them? I don't know if, Mark, if you've got anyone in mind that you'd like to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one that comes to mind, being in this area that we are the home of CPG companies. They have offices here all over. So one of probably our best success story of how we made omni-channel work across all different platforms and devices was with the Johnson and Johnson company. We had a campaign with a new Band-Aid that was coming out, some new prints that they haven't done in quite a while. And so they looked at us so that, well, because we have both the in-store digital influence side of things, we can really help tell that story in a much more complete way. So we were able to, one, generate in-store signage and displays that really help have that item stand off the shelf, so we can direct people to where they're supposed to find the item. We used a digital component where we created a box that we would send to influencers with the Band-Aids inside, with some swag from Band-Aid itself, koozies and cups, all the different things that, an influencer would have while they're filming. And then we hired influencers that directed and drove um, shoppers right to the store, right to the shelf. So this whole campaign was focused on these three or four individuals of how they lived their life day to day and how Band-Aid played a part in that. And so it was really good to see a younger generation. I think our demographic for our influencers was 23 to 26. We had a range there. But introducing like this really old brand of Johnson and Johnson and Band-Aid to a younger audience in a way, and again, meeting them where they are on TikTok, on Instagram, all the things that you would see these reels on, they were able to communicate from themselves with their day-to-day life. We had an influencer who was hiking and, needed a Band-Aid because they caught their leg on a branch. So, and then right from that, we were able to drive them right to the store. We could tell them right where it could be found, or we drove them right to Walmart.com or other platforms where these things are located. So we were able to tell that story immediately of what the use is for that product, and then send them right to the location where to pick that item up. So we are able to really bring in a legitimate omni-channel experience for this brand that you don't really think about being in the space of influencers, which is, I think, is the coolest thing, is when you can marry up a company or a product that you wouldn't imagine would be in that space, or you would see on TikTok or a reel or wherever it might be. That's really cool. That's really special when you can do that, especially with a company as old as Johnson and Johnson, with something simple as a Band-Aid. Like, I have them all over the house. My daughter uses them on every single thing that she can find. But being able to tell that story and that message, introducing a new line, a new design and color scheme, I just thought that was really cool. We were able to package all that up, and then really have a great case study at the end of that to show the importance of, one, the people that are involved. Because if they're not believable, you're not going to do anything. So we really focus and vet our influencers so that they are relatable. We deal in micro influencers. We don't have, huge names. We have relatable people, relatable shoppers who are living their life just like you and I, and how they communicate with their audiences really helps make that story quite a bit more authentic than you can find in a typical commercial or influencer.
Love that approach. Just for those listening, if you haven't really thought too much about influencer marketing, You've got nano influencers at typically under 1,000 followers. Generically, that isn't always the best scale, but it's an easy one to look at. And then micro influencers, to Mark's point, you'd be like at 1,000 to maybe 100,000 followers. Macro influencers would be 100,000 to like 1 million followers, and then mega influencers are over 1 million followers. Most of us aren't working with mega influencers today. Heather, anything you want to add to that, or perhaps a different story you'd like to share?
No, I mean, I will say number 1 to Mark's story, it was really cool the way that we were able to reach the influencers and make it a really great experience so that they could share that experience with renewing essentially the Johnson& Johnson Band-Aid brand with their followers, right? We did one over the holidays that I thought was really fun as well, and it involved kind of all the facets of the company, as well, and so we were able to create this big, beautiful holiday-themed candy display with, it was Lindt and Ferrero Rocher, and it was this big, beautiful display that you would find in all kinds of Walmart stores, just across the country. And then we were also able, like, our design team helped put that together and make it just this big, beautiful thing. It was very creative. And then we had a big influencer campaign that drove directly to the in-store experience. And so a lot of the photos, a lot of the videos showed the actual influencers going in store, exactly where it was located, exactly what they purchased, how they used it to either just eat on their own or gift as part of a holiday experience for their friends and family. And I just thought it was a really fun, um, festive way to share something that we've all grown up with, right? We've seen these candy products, they're sitting on the shelves all the time, but not a big, beautiful, festive holiday shelf like this. And so, being able to see, I just loved the way that the influencers drove exactly to where it was at in store so that people could go in and actually have that experience there.
I definitely fall into the eat your own. Sorry, friends,
Same.
but if I buy candy, it's for me, it's not for you.
Mhm.
But I'm
Yep.
wondering, you're talking about these campaigns, you're using influencers on social media. How are you actually measuring the impact that they have on business bottom lines or in the context of this larger omnichannel strategy through social media activity? How is that being measured?
So we have, we have a dedicated insights team that goes through all of the insights for every campaign. We have campaigns that maybe they're just looking for awareness, right? So we can measure engagements and impressions. We can look at organic versus paid, all of that. But another thing that we have, another offering that we have within our influence campaigns is the ability to, when we're driving people to .com, we can provide personal links for those influencers that cart the product for anybody who clicks on it, and so we can start to see and measure a lot more about the actual intent to purchase and be able to provide that for our clients to be able to measure against sales increases and stuff like that. And so it that plus all of the normal insights that you would find as far as engagement and demographics and stuff like that really helps set us apart so that we can actually start to help clients measure what that success looks like.
Got it. Got it. Mark, anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like we are able to track those cart transfers to see exactly the dollar amount that is transferred over those carts, and we lean on our clients to let us know that, showing us the needle moving. Like we don't have obviously the back end data that they would have as far as sales go, and so we just have these really close relationships with our clients that end of the quarter, end of the month, whatever it might be, end of the campaign. We can go back and say, okay, here's what we did, and here's the actual proof that it moves the needle and made a difference, and we can track those things with the help of our clients. We can get the dollar amount, but without that, even when that doesn't happen, we can literally show a dollar value associated to every campaign of what the return was.
Love it. Love it.
And I will say again with that carding link that we have, that also does give us like a serious amount of back end data on the actual on like when people click on it, what is that person, what does that shopper look like? Like sometimes we can find out what their perhaps their median income is or the location that they're purchasing from and stuff like that. And so I think to kind of bring it back down to the person, we can make it feel personal. We can help our clients see who is that actual human being that you're talking to on the other side of the screen. So,
Is there a particular technology you're using for that tracking link?
It's a platform we use for our clients. It's a proprietary piece that we do internally that we able to share with our clients, and Other people probably have similar products and tech like that, but we're able to share it with pretty much every client we have. We can do quite a few SKUs on one link, and then again, we have that back end data to support again that we had 30,000 people put these in their cart. It may still be there, but we know that cart that item is in their cart. So um, that's just a huge benefit. It's just that's a huge window into shoppers and how they shop and how successful influencer campaigns can be if they're going right from our campaign from our video or LinkedIn or TikTok post right to a cart. That's an easy transition, and there's no way around the success you could see when that happens.
Absolutely love that. Folks listening who might be using Agorapulse already, you guys know we have the ability inside the Agorapulse tool to create tracking links. Any link that you share, whether it's to an e-commerce thing or to a blog post or whatever, automatically tracked with full UTM parameters, and we integrate with Google Analytics so that we can see in the back end of Google and bring that back into your Agorapulse reports exactly what that shopper did. And this idea of pushing links that already have the item added to the cart, which is fairly easy to do. Like I have a WooCommerce cart on my personal site. I do that all the time. If I'm creating a landing page for a product, I don't want them to go to the product page and then have to add it to a cart. There's just a way to create that link. So research that, folks. If you've got an e-commerce site of your own or you're working on one for your clients and kind of build that approach into your workflows. I'm wondering, my last question for you guys, what resources or tools do you recommend for marketers who want to improve their omnichannel approach, but might be a little overwhelmed by all the things we've talked about today, all these different channels and concepts they need to keep in mind? And Mark, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's daunting, right? I mean, we all have our own areas of expertise, and a lot of companies and clients don't have a omni-channel team that's dedicated to just those things. So in short, contact us. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, people like Heather and I, that's the area that we work in. We deal with these things every single day. We see the successes and how we can make things work. But the whole idea behind what we do is making those connections and finding areas that will help our clients improve. And I'm sure Agorapulse has very similar things that we would use on our back end too, or it would tie into those messagings and those marketing kind of executions. But I think that the one of the hardest things to do is admit you don't know something, and to admit that you might need help. That goes along with a lot of life lessons that I've learned of just being able to say, I don't know this. I need to find someone who does and help me in that space. So we're not, and the beauty is we're not expected, and we shouldn't know everything. If we do or try to, we're going to miss things. And I just really highly recommend people lean on people who know what they're doing in that space. It's real easy to say you know what you're doing and then get caught and then not have a successful campaign, and really just miss those connections. You miss those opportunities. But just having a partner who is vested in your success is important. And that's the one thing I can say that I know about Soapbox and the rest of Kennel King Group is that is what we do every single day. Is we're vested in our messaging, we're vested with our clients, we're in it with them, and that really helped grow those relationships both with our client and with our customers, with their shoppers themselves. So I just really stress that having that open communication with people you're working with, and that will just transfer to success over the .com or in-store markets and the B2B too. Like our clients to us, you know, we're in it with them, and that's the thing is I think that we can hang our hat on at the end of the day is that we are here to help, and their success is our success.
Terrific advice, and I'll let you share in a moment how to actually get in touch with you guys. But Heather, I'll let you go next. Any particular resources or approaches you have?
Um, I mean, I'll second everything that Mark just said as far as surrounding yourself with people who know what they're doing. And not I think one of the biggest resources that you can have, this is for every individual, is yourself. If you don't know the answer, ask someone who does. Try to learn. And then also remember you don't have to do it all yourself, right? And I mean, outside of like a specific resource, I think really finding especially for social media management specifically just in my own personal job, my everyday, find a platform that you love, that can share, that you can share and schedule posts and stuff like that so that you can kind of batch work, your actual work. And then make sure that you're utilizing every piece of that. I think a lot of times it's easy to say, oh, there's this platform that does this and there's this one that does this. But if you can find one that you love and then really just max out the usage of it, I think that's probably one of the biggest things I would say is making sure that you're really utilizing everything that you're paying for with a social media sharing platform like that.
Well, that is a huge, terrific piece of advice because you and I both know, I mean, there's a lot of social media platforms out there,
Mhm.
and we all have just buckets of features that most people don't use. They're just not even aware of it because sometimes they can
Mhm.
be hard to find. And yet, when you dig in there a little bit, you might find something that you're like, wow, oh my gosh. I
Mhm.
didn't know it could tell me the best time to post based on my audience preferences or whatever the fact
Mhm.
might be. So, thanks for sharing that. You guys, this has been a fun and terrific interview. This has been a really important topic, I think, for a lot of folks, particularly our B2B audience, to think through. If they've got questions, maybe they want to reach out and work with you guys. Where should they go? Heather, I'll let you start first.
I mean, you can see everything at soapboxretail.com. And we are Soapbox Retail on all the platforms, so you can find us there as well. I mean, if you wanted to reach out directly to me, I'm HDesaro at soapboxretail.com, and I can let Mark share his info as well. But we are happy to answer any questions and just start the conversation.
Love it.
Yeah,
Perfect, Mark.
absolutely. Yes, please feel free to reach out to me or Heather. LinkedIn's great too. I'm on there quite a bit, so add me there. And my email address is mpopejoy at soapboxretail.com. And yeah, I mean, I think any communication's good. I mean, we love talking shop, and that's what this has been great. I very much appreciate your time with going through this. And the thing is, like, I'm sure Heather feels the same way, but like, this is what we do. This is just
Mhm.
kind of in our DNA. This is how we work. And these things are exciting to us, and helping move the needle for people is what is our goal, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you both. We, of course, as always, will have all their links in the show notes below, folks. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast B2B edition on Apple or Spotify and drop me a review. I'd love to know what you thought about this episode or the show overall and what else you'd like to see us cover. Until next time. Thank you for joining another episode of Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the leading social media management solution. Learn more at agorapulse.com. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave us a review. We value your feedback and look forward to bringing you more useful insights.